Welcome to the stream. We're going to get started with the lesson very shortly. First, let's just see who's here. I saw Cheryl and Lauren. I also saw, welcome both of you. I also saw Grant James in here. A few other people I recognize. I think I've seen your name before, Chocolate Banana. Welcome. If you're new here, I am, well, you're probably not new here, but if it's your first time in my stream, we're going to be doing a live Korean class, so you'll get to provide some feedback during the lesson. I sometimes will ask you questions. You can take notes along the way. And today we have an advanced lesson for all of you, so that'll be fun. I don't do too many advanced lessons. Maybe out of 10 lessons, 1 or 2 will be advanced level that I'll do. Most of them are intermediate, I would say. The bulk are intermediate and then beginner as well. Yeah, so welcome everyone who's here, and we'll get started right at 2 o'clock. So you are early. We still have 13 minutes left before the lesson starts. But while you're early, might as well do some announcements. I was actually asking in the chat, how long has everyone here been learning Korean? So I would just be curious if you want to put down how long you've been learning. I'd like to know. Hannah said 3 weeks. Okay. This might be, you might not get anything out of this lesson. But welcome. I'm glad that you have chosen to start learning Korean. 2.5 years, 1 year, 7 months, about a year, 1.5 years. Okay. Ruzen says properly just over a year. Okay, yeah, I guess it would be properly is the key there, because technically I learned a little bit of Korean in high school, but I wasn't studying it, so I wouldn't include that. It would be when you actually decided, I'm going to learn Korean. About how long would you say you've spent learning it? We need more advanced. Yeah, whenever I do a beginner class, advanced people say, hey, what about us? And whenever I do an advanced class, beginners say, hey, what about us? So tough luck. But I'm doing advanced too. We do advanced. At least, like I said, 1 or 2 out of 10 classes will be advanced. And this is one of them. This will, of course, be a I wouldn't say very advanced, but I would say at least a solid advanced level. Because in order to use this form, you're going to need to be able to have full conversations already. Nobody's going to be using pobida, or hagi marionida, the other form we're going to be learning today, 법도 하다. No one's going to be using those unless you're already having an in-depth conversation, and no one's going to use them to you either unless you're at that level. You're not going to need, these are not grammar forms you're going to be exposed to by watching variety shows. These aren't things you're going to pick up in regular day-to-day Korean speech. Unless you're doing more in-depth conversation, then of course these are not that weird. They're pretty common, but much at a more advanced level, I would say. Chocolate Banana says Billy pronounce o, u. Is that all you got? Is that it? Is that your question? Irish French, 2 years and 3 months. Nice. Studying hard for 2 years. That's great. Francile says 4 years, but I'm not close to good yet. Okay. You might want to, because 4 years could be a lot of time or a little time, but it also, and this applies to everyone. I'm just asking this question for kind of my curiosity's sake, but this applies to everyone, that just how long you've been studying Korean isn't really a good indicator of how good you can speak Korean. For reference, I've been studying Korean for almost 16 years now. Does that mean I'm good at Korean? Well, I am, but it's not because I've been studying for 16 years. It's because I've been actively trying to improve my Korean for most of those years anyway. So it's not just how long you've been studying Korean or how much you study Korean every day. It's more of how are you studying Korean? What things are you doing to improve your Korean abilities? And then what sort of metric are you comparing yourself with? Are you comparing yourself to a native Korean, or are you comparing yourself to, basic conversational level? Yeah, just kind of think, how am I studying Korean? How much time am I putting to it, really? What resources am I using? How am I using them? Am I actually motivated to learn? And all of that stuff kind of put together can make some people learn much faster or slower than others. But in reality, everyone just learns in a different way. Everyone learns at their own pace. So it's not really a good metric for how well you speak Korean based on how long you've been studied. Just kind of something to keep in mind. But I was curious how long all of you have been studying for. I know some people who Actually, this is a very common thing. I will just say look out for it. It's very common that some people will study Korean for many years and then say that they're advanced because they've been studying for many years and therefore they've learned a lot. I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think that someone who's been learning Korean for 6 months but can have a conversation with someone in Korean is much farther along the path than someone who's been studying for 4 or 5 years but who can't order food at McDonald's or something like that. So yeah, it's not just about how long you've been learning Korean, but in the end, how much Korean can you speak? So always kind of keep that as an indicator of how well you're doing. How much Korean can you actually speak? Not versus how long you've been studying, because yeah, some people learn, they have much better methods or they're spending their time better and they can learn much faster than others. And it might seem like those people are smarter or better at learning languages, but in reality, they're just doing things differently. Hey, Anselmnida, welcome. Poor Billy, your voice is cracking already. It is. I must be going through puberty. I thought it was 14, but I guess 34, that works too. All right, we'll get started in a bit. So I have some announcements. And again, if you're here, we're still early. We haven't started the lesson yet. I have worksheets and an outline on Patreon for every single lesson. At least there's an outline for every lesson and a worksheet for almost all of the lessons. You can sign up on Patreon right now and download today's worksheet, which has, I think, about 10 or so practice examples you can get in addition to what we're going to be doing today. As well as after the class, you can get the full outline. So you can get every single class outline for every single live stream I've ever done. And you can use those as a quick review. So those are available on Patreon for everyone. Also, I have merchandise if any of you are interested in another way to support me. Let's see, the weather's changing a bit. I think it's kind of getting warm in some places. So maybe I'll pin, maybe let's do that. I got a KitKat shirt. Just a KitKat shirt. It's not my favorite KitKat shirt. Actually, my favorite one, maybe I should pin that one instead. KitKat Emotions. This is actually my favorite shirt. I'll change it. It's all the emotions of KitKat. It took me a long time to design it by copying and pasting KitKat's face 6 times. But yes. Anyway, I have merchandise if you'd like to support me another way. Also, if you're interested in practicing Korean, I do have a pretty active Discord channel that's available 24/7. You can practice with other people in there. You can ask Korean questions, and I might answer myself. I'm in there a lot as well. So go ahead and join up, and you can practice your Korean in there for free anytime you want. So there's a link in the description of this video for the Discord. Also, if you are a member, which over 70 of you are members of this channel, if you're a member, you get access to a lot of special perks. You get to use special emoticons in the chat. You get to have a special badge by your name based on how long you've been a member. You get to access the the members only stream, which I sometimes will post stuff to on my channel. You also get to watch videos early of the abridged videos. Whenever I upload those, you get to watch them tonight. You don't have to wait until later in the week like everyone else. And you also get access to the members only channel in the Discord, where I post updates about things that I'm working on that I usually don't post in other places. So that is available if you're interested in supporting this channel on a monthly basis. And since this was our last voting option of the list, next Monday, that's tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be getting all new voting options. So there will be like 5 new voting options. If you have a request, if there's a topic you would really like me to cover in a live stream, join up as a member and make the request. Because I have so many requests, I can only take them now from members for the live streams. So if there's a topic that you'd like, feel free to join my membership. Leave me a comment in my Discord, make a request wherever you can find me, and I might add it to the next list of topics. So it'll get taught. As you know, everything on the list will get taught. So yeah, if you have something you'd like me to teach, now is your chance before tomorrow when I put up the vote, and then we'll get 5 new topics that everyone can vote on, and those will be the next 5 weeks of classes. Okay, that's all the announcements we have. Now let's check out how the chat's going. We'll get started in just a few minutes with the lesson. Okay. Because I started my journey, I see Ronica's commenting on what I was talking about before. I started my journey with Korean 5 years ago and had a break, but I feel like I'm not able to handle conversation. Yeah, that's normal. And you can actually send me those sort of concerns on Discord. You can tag me in the Korean Questions channel or just in general even, and we can talk about that a bit, because I can't just give you general advice about how you can improve your learning in that sort of situation, because it's going to depend it's going to be on a person case-by-case basis. I was thinking in Korean, kebakke. They say kebakke, case by case. And it's going to be case by case, so it would depend on exactly what resources you're learning, how you're studying, all of those things. But I can give some general advice, though, and that is, I'll say, the most important thing you can do, and I've said this for years, is conversation. Conversation is the best thing that you can do for practicing Korean. Conversation is the best thing you can do for improving your Korean, is by pulling a Korean aside. I mean, you can't get them close to you right now, but online, get a Korean friend and just practice by speaking with them. That's it. And your Korean doesn't have to be very good to do that. You just have to be able to try and do it as much as you can. All day if you possibly could, because that's what people who go to Korea and, do exchange programs over there or study Korean in Korea, that's what they're doing, is just speaking Korean as much as they can. And being in Korea is great too for exposure, but just being in Korea has nothing to do with your ability to speak Korean. People can go live in Korea for years and never learn anything beyond just a few basic greetings. So you really don't have to be in Korea to learn Korean to that sort of higher level. You just need to be speaking it as much as possible. So always keep in mind that no matter what your level is, if you've been studying for 4 years, 5 years, 1 year, 3 months, whatever, try to make sure you're always getting enough conversation practice. And actually, that was like one of the first tips that I did in my video, like 10 tips for learning Korean or something. I had a video from like back in 2014, I think it was, or something. And that was one of the first tips, was conversation. So have conversations with people. I felt lately overwhelmed by resources I found to that time. I want to simple and feel comfortable having Korean lessons. If you want to have more comfortable Korean lessons, then I would say even try to focus more on conversation. But I don't really have enough time to talk about it. So maybe later, you can ask me later. I was going to say something about being comfortable when studying. So I guess I can try that. Let's see here. Okay, I think we are ready to get started. I think everyone's here. QAZQ says, Billy, BTS didn't win the Grammy, but they still won the Grammy of our hearts, right? Isn't that the real Grammy? Okay, let's get started with the lesson. So, today we have an advanced topic, and we're going to be learning first about the word pop. Does anyone know what pop means? Pop is actually a regular Korean word. I believe it's this one. Yeah, it's that one. Okay, I did that poorly there. There we go. Okay, this one is pop, and it comes from Hanja. And pop, actually, I keep saying like with an English accent. Pop, get me some popcorn. Okay, pop is a Hanja word originally. It comes from Chinese, and it means a law. But even more fundamental than that, it means a method of doing something, like a method or a way. But you can think of it as meaning law for the use that we're going to be doing today. For the grammar form we're doing today, though, you can think of it as meaning law. So this means law or method. And you've actually probably heard this used in several other words before. The first one that comes to my mind is 방법. 방법. 방법 is a method. So you can say a method for doing something. 뭐 하는 방법. The way to do something, how to do something. Literally the law of doing something, like the way that something should be done. But you can also think about it as just method or way. So that's what it means. And pop actually has a different usage other than just the grammar form we're going to be using. It can also be used on its own as a different kind of grammar form that means a way. So let me show you what that looks like. Now, we haven't gone into our pobida grammar form yet. This is just a little bonus because you can use it in more ways than just pobida. Okay. 저만 들어갈 수 있다니 이런 법이 어딨어. You might have actually heard this before. Whether you're advanced or not, you might have actually heard 이런 법이 어딨어. You might have heard this sort of expression before. Actually, we'll make it 있어요 because let's be polite. Okay. 저만 들어갈 수 없다니 이런 법이 어딨어요. 이런 법이 어딨어요. Literally, this kind of 법, this kind of law. Oh wait, I'm missing the word. I was like, why? I was reading my paper. 어딨어요? Where's 어디? 어디가 어디 갔니? Where did my 어디 go? 어디, can I go down? Okay, I have space down here. 어디가 어디 갔니? Okay. See how everyone's doing here? Okay. Yes, I found a great language exchange partner. It's really focused. Oh, I see you're talking to someone about languages things. That's good. Okay. 저만 들어갈 수 없다니 이런 법이 어딨어요? So literally, where? 어딨어요? Where is 이런 법? This kind of law. 이런 법이 어딨어요? Literally, where is this kind of law that says 저만 들어갈 수 없다? Only I am not allowed to enter. So I'm the only one who can't go in. Maybe a club or something. You're saying only I can't enter? 저만 들어갈 수 있다니 이런 법이 어딨어요? Who says that? Literally, where is there a law written that says only I can't go in? Now, this is how we would say something like, says who? Says who? Or that's not fair, right? Literally, where is this kind of law? So this word 법 can be used in this sort of expression. 이런 법이 어딨어요? Or 그런 법이 어딨어요? Or whatever kind of 법 이 어딨어요? Where is the law that says whatever you have before? So this is just an example of how you might see it. And you can use this sort of expression when you strongly disagree with something or you think that something's unfair. So you'll hear this sort of 법 expression used in a lot of those cases. Okay, but this isn't the lesson we're going to be doing today. That was just a quick preview of the word 법. We're actually going to be using 법 in a much more, a slightly less common, more advanced form. And that is pobida. So let's first learn our main form today, and that is pobida. To make it, you take a verb, and you change it into an adjective in the present tense. I'm just going to write PT. So you take a verb and you change it into an adjective in the present tense. This can be an action verb, or it can be a descriptive verb. And then, followed by that, you'll add pobida and conjugate it. This is ida, to be. So you can conjugate this as something like 법이에요, or in the past tense. And we'll talk about how you can conjugate and can conjugate it in a second. So what would a verb look like if you change it into an adjective in the present tense? Can you give me an example? Can someone give me an example of a descriptive verb that would be an adjective in the present tense? Because I want to see if you guys already know what I'm talking about. If not, I'll have to give you some examples of what that looks like. Did I spell it wrong? KB1, you said shouldn't be 없다니. Did I spell it wrong? That's what I have on my paper. Did I not write it? Did I say 있다니? If I did, I'll have to write it back on the board. I don't know. I could have sworn I thought I wrote 없다니, and I thought I was saying 없다니. Yeah, Goncalo, how would you change 예쁘다, for example, into an adjective in the present tense? Deja vu, nice. Yeah, 공부하다, to study, is an action verb. You can change it into an adjective in the present tense to become 공부하는. Did I write 있다니? Okay, I'll write it back on the board in a second then. That way it'll help me with editing. Okay. So yeah, if you have and I'm going to see if someone can give a 배우는 법이다. Yeah, you could do 배우다 to learn. 배우는 법이다. Can we get a 귀여운? Okay, I was going to ask for a descriptive verb. That's great. Yeah, 귀엽다. 귀여운. Like you would say 귀여운 강아지. 귀여운 강아지를 봤다. I saw a cute dog. So 귀엽다 is a descriptive verb. An adjective form of 귀엽다 in the regular present tense is just 귀여운. 귀여운 pobida. So to be the law that something is cute. So the way that this works is, let's take 하다, for example, to do. So let's take 하다, to do. 하는 법이다. Literally, to be a law that someone does something. It is the law that someone does something. Now, this does not literally mean that it's legal that you have to do something, that that's the law, that you must do something. It's a different kind of law. This is a natural law. It is a natural law that someone does something. That's what this form means, literally and almost naturally, how it's translated. This means that you are saying something is natural or a fact because it is a universal truth or a natural law. Literally, it is a law that someone or something does something. And with a descriptive verb, it is a law that someone or something is descriptive verb. So it's a law that all dogs are cute. Okay? It's natural. It's a fact that all dogs are cute. You could say that literally and using this form. So that would work if you wanted to do that. So when do you think this form might be used? 자연스러운? Yep, sure. When do you think this form might be used? Can you think about when you might want to use this form? Let me give you an example. Would you use this form talking with your friends? Would you want to use this form in a speech? Would you want to use this form in an essay? Would you want to use this form in a text? Where would you or would you not want to use this kind of form? It is a law that something or someone is or does something. I'll give you I'll just give a minute to see if anyone can come up. 방법 is not short for, 법 is not short for 방법. 방법 is a word that just means a method by itself. That comes from 법, but it's not short for one or the other. 법 is the original word, the original root word. To state the obvious. Could be obvious, yeah. Could be something very obvious. At least it's obvious to the speaker. Talking about nature, okay, something that's natural. Daisy says in an essay, yeah, you can use it in an essay. It looks formal, so probably a sign. Yeah, it is formal. So as you would guess, this form is slightly fancy sounding. It is a law that something does something or someone is a certain way. So it's a little bit of a formal and fancy sounding ending. And because of that, you're not going to be using this in your day-to-day conversations with your best friends. This is going to be something that you could say in a more deep conversation or maybe in an essay or giving a speech or something like that. It'll sound very natural in those situations. This wouldn't be something that would sound very natural casually because of how fancy it sounds. So you're not going to see, because of that, you're not going to see something like 하는 법이야 with casual, just because it does have a very formal feeling. It's like saying, yo, bro, it's a natural law that states, it's just, is that how kids talk these days? It doesn't really sound very natural. It just doesn't match with a casual feeling. So, thus making this form more of an advanced and formal form. Okay, so let's talk about a few things you can and can't do with this form. First of all, if you want to make it negative, you say that something is not a law. The only way to do that is to change ida to 아니다. Oh, I'm sorry. The only way not to do that. If you want to make this negative, you should never just change ida to 아니다. That would sound very awkward. It is not a law that... Now, it might sound okay in English, but in Korean, this would sound very awkward. It's always used as pobida in a form. So if you want to make it negative, instead, what you want to do is to make the verb negative. So it is a law that someone or something doesn't do something. And the way you can do that is if you have 하다, you can do 하지 않다, and then conjugate that to an adjective in the present tense. Now, this could become either 하지 않는, or it could become 하지 않은. Now, this will depend on whether it's an action verb or a descriptive verb, because an action verb will become 하지 않는, and a descriptive verb would become 하지 않은. It's a very small difference in pronunciation and spelling, but it does matter. So that's because action verbs have different conjugation than descriptive verbs. So keep that in mind. So if you're using 하다 to do, 하지 않는 pobida. It is a law that something does not do something. Or if it's a descriptive verb, 하지 않은 pobida. It's a law that something is not a certain way, like that. Okay. Also, let me ask you guys a question while I'm erasing this. Do you think that I could use this for, can I use this to say something general, like it is a law that BTS is the best group in the world? Can I say something like this? Can I say that BTS is the best? It's a universal truth that BTS is the best. Now, this is not the time for arguing about this. This is the time for thinking about grammar. Can I say something like it's a universal truth that BTS is the best band in the world? Maybe I shouldn't have made that as an example. But what would you think? Just grammatically, let's look at this grammatically. Can you say that with this form? Based on what we know so far. 뭐뭐 할 마련이다 라는 동사 형태랑 비슷한 건가? We're going to be doing 마련이다. 마련이다 would be 하기 마련이다 or 하게 마련이다. And that's going to be as soon as we finish pobida. It'll be the last 30% of the lesson will be about 마련이다. And yes, for a quick answer, it is very similar to that. There are some differences, which we'll talk about, but overall you can swap one for the other. No, because Mama Moo. That's the correct answer. Token, no, because Mama Moo. That is correct. That's the reason. It doesn't really have to do with grammar. It's just because Mama Moo exists. I'm sorry. I'm just being silly. I actually don't know very many of Mama Moo's songs. Only a couple of them. Okay, let me rewrite the first sentence just because I realized I wrote it wrong. Oh wait, you know what? I'm just gonna edit it. I'm just gonna edit it later. because I said 없다니, right? Did I say 있다니 or did I say 없다니? Okay, now I can't even remember if I said it. So now I'm going to redo it because I can't actually remember if I said it or not. I could have sworn I was saying 없다니 because I was thinking in my head. 저만 들어갈 수 없다니. 이런 법이 어디 있어요? So first I forgot to write 어디, and then I wrote 있다 instead of 없다. Okay, just in case if I said it, 저만 들어갈 수 없다니. So only I can't go in. So, and I'm going to react to that, 다니. 이런 법, this kind of law. 이런 법이 어디 있어요? Literally, where is this kind of law? So where does it say that I can't go in? That sort of meaning. 저만 들어갈 수 없다. Only I can't enter. I'm the only one who can't go in. 이런 법이 어디 있어요? Literally, where is the law that says, where is this kind of law that I can't go in? This would be like we would say something like, I'm the only one who can't enter? Says who? Says who? And that's so unfair. So this sort of expression with 법이 어디 있어요? After something like 이런 or 그런 is used when you think something's really unfair or you really disagree with something. Okay. I'll just cut that in case I said ita too. Okay, I hope I didn't say ita. Anyway, so, and the answer to the question about BTS is no. As much as you think that, it couldn't be considered a natural law or a universal truth. So this can only be used with general things. This form can only be used with general statements. It can't be used to say something specific like my dog is the best. 우리 강아지가 최고인 법이다. No, because that's not a universal truth. It'll sound like you're saying, well, it's a well-known natural law that my dog is the best. It makes sense. It just sounds awkward. It sounds like you don't know how to use Korean grammar. So don't do it. This is for very general things. Again, remember, a natural law. Keep that in mind. 법 means law. So it is a law in nature that. That's kind of what the literal meaning is that you get. So it can only be used for general things. And as we discussed, this would only be used in kind of a little bit fancy speaking, or maybe proverbial speaking. Proverb, like you're saying some fancy proverb. It is a natural law, as we do know, that even if you were to eat the same food every day, you can still become tired of it. It's just something, it sounds a little bit fancy when you say it, like a proverb or something like that. And there are a few Korean proverbs, a few Korean expressions that actually use this, which we'll talk about. We'll talk about at least one or two of them. And you'll see it used a lot in Proverbs type. This ida is only going to be conjugated in the declarative form. So what is the declarative form? Well, unfortunately, there's not really a simpler way to say this. It just means something it means something that you're declaring. So just a statement, something you're just saying. So you can only use this pobida when you're just making a regular statement. You're just saying something is, or maybe something is not a natural law. You cannot use it to make things like commands or suggestions, or anything else, because it wouldn't make sense, right? Be a law that says, shall it be a law that says? It doesn't make any sense in Korean. So this is only for saying something is or something isn't, a direct statement. That's what's known as the declarative form. You're just declaring something. Also, this can only be used in the past or the present tense. Most of the time, 99% of the time, it's going to be used in the present tense, because you're saying it is a law that such and such happens or such and such is, right? But if you're talking about something in the past and you're thinking about it in the past, at that time, it was a natural law that you could get away with that. Do not use this in the future. It's a natural law that something will be it will be a natural law that something happens. That doesn't make any sense. So don't do it. Again, the verb you use before this, regardless, will always be in the present tense. So you're not going to do past tense adjective with pobida anyway. It's always going to be something is, and then it is a law, or it maybe was a law. So most of the time it's just going to be in the present tense. So that kind of limits you to how this can be used, because we said that it's only used in like kind of fancy, like proverb style speaking. So you can't really use it in a lot of situations. You could use it as ida if you're doing plain form, or you're writing an essay. 이에요 for speech, 입니다, 이었다 for past, 이었어요 or 이었습니다. That's pretty much it. You're not going to be using it in combination with a lot of other forms because it has a fancy feel. So you're not going to be like, 였어, haha, 그러네, 뭐 법이네, haha, like that. You're not going to be using it in fancy or casual expressions. It's possible. It's not going to be though, because it has such a flowery, fancy feel to it. So keep that in mind. You don't need to get very creative with the endings. Okay, so let's do our first example sentence, and let's see how we are on time. And we're perfect on time. Okay. Here's our first sentence. Okay, this is our first sentence, and also maybe the simplest sentence we're going to be doing. I want you guys to translate this in the chat. Go ahead and give this a try in the chat. See if you can translate it in the chat. 사람은 쉽게 변하지 않는 법이에요. 사람은 쉽게 변하지 않는 법이에요. Again, notice that because this is a action verb, 변하다, 않는, not 아는, with 이응 up here. So 않는. 사람은 쉽게 변하지 않는 법이에요. 사람은 쉽게 변하지 않는 법이에요. 저도 그런 것 같아요. 정말 사람은 쉽게 변하지 않는 것 같아요. 쉽게 변하지 않는 법이에요. What do you guys think? Is this used when explaining physics? It's a good question. I never took a physics class in Korean. Some things you can say like it is a natural law that, or it's a universal fact that an object in motion stays in motion. Sure. Are you going to be saying it for like everything? No, you're not going to need to use it because again, this is fancy. So you want to say something that sounds fancy that has to do with any topic, fill in the blank? Sure. But it doesn't need to be like physics or anything like that. It's anything that you want to sound like that, like kind of fancy-ish, saying something is natural, that it's a fact that, something like that. It's a fact that people don't change easily. Yes, easily. Now I didn't say they don't change. I'm not saying 사람은 변하지 않는 법이에요. I'm not saying that people don't change. People change. Not change easily. It's a law that people don't change. It's a fact. It's as a rule, people don't. Yeah, that's good. As a rule, you can think of it like that since 법 means a law. Okay. 사람은, so people, 쉽게, easily. 변하다 is to change or transform. In this case, it's change. 쉽게 변하지 않는 법이에요. So it is a law that people do not change easily. 사람은 쉽게 변하지 않는 법이에요. People don't change easily, and that's natural. That's a law. That's an accepted, a universal truth that people just don't change easily. I mean, I can't even change my shirt. Am I right? Okay, let's do our next example sentence. Okay. 좋아하는, let me make this a little bit clearer. That's what it is. Okay. 좋아하는 음식도 매일, I think it's 매일. I'm not looking at my paper. I'm just guessing what I wrote. 먹으면 is it 질리다? Yes. 질리는 법이에요. Okay, what does this mean? 좋아하는 음식도 매일 먹으면 질리는 법이에요. 좋아하는 음식도 매일 먹으면 질리는 법이에요. 좋아하는 음식도 매일 먹으면 질리는 법이에요. 질리는 법, 질리는 법이에요. 좋아하는 음식도 매일 먹으면 질리는 법이에요. What do you think about this sentence? Do you agree? I totally agree. I 100% agree with this. 변하다 is used with non-physical things. It can be used with physical things too. Like colors changing, something's form. Because it can also mean like transform. So any physical object transforms. It's obvious. Okay. 변하다 is intransitive. 바꾸다 is transitive. 바뀌다 is also intransitive. 보라굴 asks, is pobida like the formal way of 잖아요? No. I did a separate lesson about 잖아요. You can search that on my live stream playlist. It's very different usage. In addition, 잖아요 has more of a feeling of like, hey, ain't it? Isn't it? Like you're kind of searching for confirmation or expressing that you're certain of your views. This is not for expressing your opinion, though. Even if I eat food that I like every day, I will get tired of it. Yes, very good. It's a fact that if you're eating something you like every day, you'll get sick of it. Yeah, even something you like, if you eat it every day, 매일 먹으면 질리다 is to get sick of something, to get tired of something. This can be a person or a food or anything. 먹으면 질리는 법이에요. So it's a fact. It's a universal law that if you eat food you like, even if you're eating food you like every day, so literally even food that you like, 좋아하는 음식도 매일 먹으면, if you eat it every day, you're going to get sick of it. 질리는 법이에요. And that's a fact. It's the truth that it's only natural that you would get sick of something you're eating every day, even if it's something that you like. 좋아하는 음식도 매일 먹으면 질리는 법이에요. Can you think of any food that you would eat that you could realistically eat every day and not get sick of? If there is anything like that, it would have to be very simple, right? Like rice. If you ate rice every single day, would you get sick of it? If you're Korean, I guess I'll say that. Bread. I don't know. Maybe you get sick of rice still too. Even Koreans don't want to eat rice every single day. Maybe fried rice is pretty easy to do. I don't know. Sushi. I think even sushi, I would get sick of it if I'm having it every single day. 좋아하는 음식도 매일 먹으면 질리는 법이에요. So even food that you like, if you eat every day, you can get sick of. So it's a natural law that would happen. And this would not be an opinion. You cannot say something like this that's your opinion. This would have to be something that you know everyone else would agree with you on. Butter? How much butter are you eating? Van Ah Luong said butter. You can eat butter. Butter every day. What are you just like scooping butter with like, never get bored of this. Yeah, this is where it's at. The cream of the crop. Okay, let's do the next one. Butter. It's like my mom. She used to wake up in the middle of the night and go to the kitchen when my grandma was asleep and like scoop butter out of the refrigerator at night and eat it. And then my grandma would wake up in the morning and open the fridge. There'd be like fingerprints in the butter. Okay, I love butter in my food, but I would never even have like a teaspoon of butter. Like, oh. Okay, let's do a proverb. I bet you guys can understand this. Well, the ones that are learning this lesson for the. Actually, let's write this down. There's no room here. You could probably understand this even if you can't translate it to English. Okay. 윗물이 맑아야 아랫물이 맑은 법이죠. Well, here it's actually 법이지요, but 조, same thing. 윗물이 맑아야 아랫물이 맑은 법이지요. 윗물, 아랫물, 윗물, 아랫물, 윗물, 아랫물. So try to translate this. What do you think this means? 윗물이 맑아야 아랫물이 맑은 법이죠. Keep trying to say 법이에요 because all our other examples are 법이에요. 윗물 is what you think. It is we plus this shield. Okay, while you guys are writing your example, I'll tell you this. This shield here is, I've done a video about it. It is called a 사이시옷. And it literally means between shield. So a between S. It serves the same purpose as this. 의. It connects two nouns together. Typically, they're two pure Korean, but it can also be a Sino-Korean and a pure Korean sometimes. And so it's to connect two words together into one new word. So if you don't really know what it means, you can just try to imagine that it's not there and try to see if you can understand what the two individual syllables mean. In this case, 위, above, 물, water. And the same thing here. Oh, hey, Grant. I totally was forgetting about my my donations today. Gems. 3 J's. Thanks. 빌리쌤이 동사 형태 마법사입니다. Thank you. 감사합니다. 근데 동사 형태 마법사가 뭔데? 그런 단어 어디서 찾았어요? 잼스 씨가 만든 단어인가 보네요. Thank you. 감사합니다. 그러면 기부를 해주셔서 저 춤을 춰드리겠습니다. 무슨 춤을 춰드릴까요? Okay, let's do this one. Wait, that's not the one I wanted. This one, here we go. 셋, 넷, 다섯, 여섯, 일곱, 여덟, 아홉, 열. Okay. 감사합니다. The upper water is clear, the lower water is clear. Yes, something like that. Yes, this is live. Welcome. What is 막다? 막다 is to be clear. To be clear, like you would normally would say, like the weather is clear. You can use 막다, or like something's clear and bright in that sort of sense. 윗물이 맑아야. So what is this form? Yeah, this is only if. So this is kind of like a must. So the upper water must be clear in order for 아랫물, 아래, below, 물. So the below water, the water under, 맑은 법이지요. So only if the upper water is clear or clean, you can think of it like that, can the lower water also be clean. And that is a 법. That is a law. That's a universal law. That the upper water must be clean in order for the underwater to be clean as well. What do you think this proverb might mean? Now, obviously, you're not talking about water. What could this mean? How would you translate this? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Something like that. That one, though, I think is used to say that something kind of goes down the hierarchy. Like if there's a problem, well, it's obviously from that situation. So kind of like that. There's a more, yeah, that works. It kind of has that feeling though. If you have imagine a bucket of water. Would you drink from the water if the top of the water is dirty? No. Why not? Because if the top of the water is dirty, you can assume the bottom of the water is going to be dirty too. Now, if you have a barrel and the top looks clean, probably the bottom of it is going to be clean too. I mean, it might have like, dirt and stuff at the bottom, but for the most part, it's going to be clean if you see the top is clean. So that's kind of the idea. Like if you look at it and it's dirty on top, it probably is going to be dirty under that too. And if you see something and you're like, hey, the bottom's all dirty, you can blame the top. This expression in English, you could say something like, a fish rots from the head down. Now, I've never used that proverb before, but it is an idiom that you might see. A fish rots from the head down. So whatever is a problem starts from the top. Like if you have an organization and the leaders are bad, well, that's going to trickle down to how the entire company policy works. And I've worked for a company that I thought was really weird. And then when I met the CEO, it all made sense. I was like, I understand now. So you have a really good group of people and you look at the top and you see this is how they behave, this is how they treat their employees, this is how they act. Well, then that's why the bottom is so good. Or if you look at the employees and you think, why are the employees so bad here all the time? You look at the top. So that's the kind of expression. 윗물이 맑아야 아랫물이 맑은 법이지요. So the top water must be clean for the bottom water to be clean, or something like a fish rots from the head down. Okay. And yes, it does have a very proverb feeling to it, just like it would in English. A fish rots from the head down. It's a universal fact that happens. Kind of like that. Okay. Let's do a little bit harder one. 기대가 없으면 This one's good. 실망도 없는 법이에요. What does this mean? 기대가 없으면 실망도 없는 법이에요. Yeah, Veronica, no worries. This will also be left on my channel, so you can always watch the live stream later in case you miss it. You just won't get to participate during it. 기대가 없으면, what is 기대? And what is 실망? Okay. If you don't have expectations, you can't be disappointed. Yeah. 기대 is expectations. You're looking forward to something. If you're excited about something, well, in Korean, you don't want to say, "Oh, I'm excited," because it could mean something different. You often say something like 기대돼요. Like literally, it is becoming expectation. It is something I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to it. 정말 기대하고 있어요. I'm really looking forward to it. 기대. 실망. I am disappoint. This is disappoint. So 실망 없다 is to not have any disappointment. 기대가 없으면, literally, if you don't have any expectations, 실망도 없는 법이에요. Then it's a law, a universal law, that you're not going to be disappointed. You're not going to have any disappointment if you don't have any expectations. Taps forehead. 기대가 없으면 실망도 없는 법이에요. So it's a natural law that, if you can't be disappointed if you don't have any expectations. So if you expect nothing, you will not be disappointed. That's always my philosophy for pre-ordering games, as well as it was for Cyberpunk, unfortunately. 기대가 없으면 실망도 없는 법이에요. If you're not expecting anything, well, you can't be disappointed. Okay, let's do the next sentence. All right, here we go. This is another proverbial sounding expression. And this one's something that you might be able to use with your friends. So I said that this form has a very fancy feeling. So it's going to be used in fancy situations when you want to say something like, it's a natural law that this. That doesn't mean you can't use it with your conversations with your friends. It probably won't, though. You'd have to be kind of creative about how you could. So let me give you an example of how you could use this with your friends or, people you're close with. So it doesn't have to be a formal situation, although it does have that formal sound. 대체 왜 이럴까요? Okay. See if you can understand what this expression means. A casual way to say something's natural. You don't need to say anything. You could just say blah 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 blah. 두 번은 맞는 거지. The end. Now you don't have to do it as an expression. It's just, it is. The end. You can just say it is. Like if you want to say it's 사람은 쉽게 변하지 않는 법이에요. Like it's a natural law. People don't change easily. Well, if you just want to say that casually, just say 사람은 쉽게 변하지 않아. 쉽게 변하지 않는 거예요. The end. Just end your sentence. You don't have to add anything to the end if you don't want that feeling of saying something's like natural that it is. But we will also learn a slightly less, we'll learn something right after this that's kind of a little bit less if that's what you're looking for. Okay. 대체 is 도대체. What in the world? So this is like in the world, in goodness's name, that kind of expression. Like it's just an emphatic expression when you're asking a question. 대체 뭐야 이거? What in the world is this? 대체 왜? Why in the world? That sort of thing. 고장난 시계도 하루에 2번은 맞는 법인데 이 친구는 대체 왜 이럴까요? 고장난 시계도 하루에 2번은 맞는 법인데 이 친구는 대체 왜 이럴까요? 고장난 시계도 하루에 2번은 맞는 법인데 이 친구는 대체 왜 이럴까요? Yeah. Kalubka. I know they say even a broken clock is right twice a day, but what on earth is this dude doing? Like, what's up with this dude in that sort of sense? Literally, this friend. 고장난 시계, a broken clock. So even a broken clock is 맞아요, correct. 하루에 2번, twice a day. So even a broken clock, they say even a stopped watch is right twice a day, or stopped clock. I don't know, what is it they say? Stopped clock. Even a stopped clock is right twice a day. That's what they say. But still, 이 친구는 대체 왜 이럴까요? What's up with this guy? Even a stopped clock is going to be right twice a day, but what's up with this guy? He's always wrong. That's what you're expressing. So you're saying, everyone knows it's a natural law that they say, even a stopped clock is still going to be right twice a day, but this dude's wrong 100% of the time. He's always wrong. That's what this expression means here. 이 친구는 대체 왜 이럴까요? What's up with this guy? 고장난 시계도 하루에 2번은 맞는 법인데 이 친구는 대체 왜 이럴까요? Okay. So, hopefully you kind of get the idea of how to use pobida. Remember, the most important thing is to remember to use it with just verbs conjugated in the present tense only. If you want to change the ida at the end, you can make it past tense if you want to talk about something in the past, but that's really not going to be something you're going to do, like 99% of situations ever. You just want to keep it in the present tense. So remember, it's just pobida. Conjugate ida, present tense, you're done. Don't mess up with it. Don't say 이지 않아요, 아니에요, or anything like that. Work everything before. It's always present tense. Verb, adjective, present tense, always. Just keep that in mind. Always present tense adjective before pobida, and then just conjugate ida normally. So 이에요, 이지요 if you want. 입니다 is going to be really common too. Okay, another similar form. Here's another similar form. 법도 하다. 법도 하다. Literally, there also does a law, and then you add this to the exact same form as before. So 하다 would become 하는 법도 하지, 하는 법도 해요, 하는 법도 합니다. Like that, just like before, but now it's 법도 하다. This is not the same as pobida. It might look like it's a expression that says, well, there is also a law that means no. This is not for things that are so certain. This is not for things that are natural laws. These are for things that are more like a possibility. So it's for saying that something is likely. You know, it's likely that something happens. So if you were to say our previous example, we had 고장난 시계도 하루에 2번은 맞는 법도 하네요. You know, I guess it's likely that a broken clock is still going to be right twice a day. It doesn't have any impact, right? Saying something is possible or likely. This has less confidence than using pobida. And as such, you're not really going to see it used very much. In fact, I tried to even find a lesson about this, but I couldn't because it's not really that common. You might see it though, and it is a unique form, but it's more or less confidence. It's just saying, yeah, there is also, that law that says this, like that. So it's less confidence in that universal law. You're saying something possible, or, probably, likely, I guess. It just sounds like you're not very confident when you're saying it. So you could do it about things you think, like, oh, I guess, they say, people don't change easily. Well, 쉽게 변하지 않는 법도 하네요. I guess it's possible that people don't change very easily. But why even say it? Just say I guess, or I think, or they don't, or anything like that. So, yeah. Anyway, you might see that though. We're not going to be going to any examples because it's not so useful, I think, compared with pobida even. Okay. We're not done though. That was one of our forms today. There is another form that you can actually use that works in a similar way. And that is marionida. Marionida is not a Hanja word like pop. 마련이다 is from pure Korean. Just like pobida. You'll conjugate ida at the end. You're not going to change it to something else like 아니다. So this works the same way overall as pobida. It has the same usage and it has the same translation, pretty much. Now, the way you do it is you take a verb stem, so 하다 would become ha. You know what I think about every time I think about the verb stem of hada? You remember that scene from The Lord of the Rings where Frodo's wearing the ring and Bilbo tries to grab it and he's like, ha! Like that? I always felt like Bilbo's conjugating verbs in that scene. Okay. Hada would become hagi. Now, optionally, you might also see hage. Every lesson I found about this form teaches it's hagi or hage. You can use ki or ge interchangeably. No. And then they proceed to give every single example using ki. Just use ki. Know that ke is okay, but ki is going to be used like every single time. So ki is way more common than ke. But you might see hage marionida used as well. Just keep an eye on it. It has the same meaning. I've asked some Koreans, it has the same feeling too. It doesn't sound wrong, but most of the time they'll use ki themselves. So verb stem plus ki, then 마련이다, conjugate it just like before. So this is equivalent to pobida, but with some differences. First of all, just like pobida, it implies that something is natural or a fact, but it kind of has more of a feeling of saying something is obvious. So yes, it has the same meaning, like that's a universal fact, but this more feels like you're just saying, well, it's obvious that something happens. So the feeling of this is ever slightly less fancy than pobida. While pobida was used a lot, I said, for like giving speeches or maybe saying a proverb or something that sounds fancy. This one is also used in fancy or formal speaking, but it's less proverbial sounding. It doesn't sound necessarily like you're giving us a phrase, like a special phrase, more just like you're speaking a little bit fancy. So it is obvious. It is obviously the case that, it's kind of the feeling it has. This is obviously the case that, it is obviously the case that something, or it is obviously natural that sort of feeling. But if you compare it with pobida, it's a little bit less fancy than pobida. Okay. Also, there is a slight difference between the usage. There's one thing you need to know, and that is if you want to say you must do something, if you want to use the ya hada or ya 되다 forms, you can use ya hada or ya 되다 before pobida. Pobida has no restrictions. So you can say like 밥 먹기 전에 물을 많이 마셔야 되는 pobida. It's a law that you must drink. Actually, that sounds really dumb. It's a law that you must drink lots of water before you eat food or something. I couldn't think of an example off the top of my head. So you could say something like that. It's a law that you must do something. You can use ya hada or ya 되다, must do, before pobida, but you cannot use this before marionida. That's the only restriction. So this one has this restriction. Most of the time, though, you're not really going to need this. But if you did want to say it's a universal fact that you must do something, well, then you have to use pobida. You cannot use marionida. Other than this, though, you can use them both for every sentence. Every example sentence I gave you with pobida can be switched to marionida without any change in the overall meaning. Only the slight difference in nuance of how it sounds. And of course, the way that it's conjugated is, with verb stem instead of adjective. Okay. Let's see what I've got for sentence. 힘든 운동도 계속하면. Let's do 하면. I think I originally was like 하다 보면 or something like that. That'll be a future lesson. 익숙해지기 마련이에요. What does this mean? So what does this sentence mean? Who can translate it? 힘든 운동도 계속하면 익숙해지기 마련이에요. 힘든 운동도 계속하면 익숙해지기 마련이에요. Oh, hey, Nika. Welcome. I was doing my impression of Bilbo, okay? Have you not seen Lord of the Rings? If you have not seen Lord of the Rings, that is a terrible mistake. You need to go watch those 3 movies right now. Those are wonderful movies. It is a universal truth that those, and actually can't really say that, so I probably shouldn't give you that as an example. It's a fact that if you keep doing hard workout, you'll get used to it. Yeah, you'll get used to it. 익숙하다 is to be accustomed to be used to something. 익숙해지다 is to become, to get used to something. So 힘든 운동도, even difficult exercise, 계속하면, if you keep doing it, literally if you continually do it, 익숙해지다, to get used to it. 익숙해지기 마련이에요. It is natural, it is obvious that, so obviously, of course, if you keep doing even hard exercise, why is my voice like cracking? Obviously, let me see what I wrote. I always spend time doing a nice translation. I can't translate something naturally on the spot. Of course, if you keep doing difficult exercise, you'll get used to it. 힘든 운동도, so literally, even difficult exercise, 계속하면, if you keep doing it, 익숙해지기 마련이에요. You will get used to it. Of course, you're going to get used to it, even if you keep. Of course, you're going to get used to it if you keep doing it, even if it's difficult exercise. So even difficult exercise, if you keep doing it, you'll get used to it. 힘든 운동도 계속하면 익숙해지기 마련이에요. 힘든 운동도 계속하면 익숙해지기 마련이에요. Okay. If anyone watching is wondering why I sometimes will stop and repeat the whole sentence when I mess up, it's because I have to edit these videos after. I want to make sure that the edit is easy to follow along because the edit's supposed to be short. And if I say one thing, like if I slip up one thing, I'm like, I don't want to have like a bunch of cuts when I'm trying to say a sentence. Okay. 너무 오래 왜? 너무 오래 참으면. Okay, let's do this one. I want you guys to finish this. I want you guys to finish this sentence. Oh, hey, Nikki. Welcome. I saw the N and I thought, oh, it must be Nightbot is sentient for a second. Hey, Nikki. Do. Hey, Nikki. Do. Oh, I can't. I don't know how much that song is going to be copyrighted on YouTube, so I probably should stop. 마련이다 in spoken language. Does it come up in polite talk? Yeah, it comes up in polite talk. It's more of a fancy sounding form. So how would you finish this sentence? Those of you who are advanced, you can finish it any way you'd like. 너무 오래 참으면. So 참다. You can think of it as meaning, well, it means endure or to bear, like to deal with something. But you can also think of it as like hold it in, because you can say 참다 for like holding your emotions in, like you're holding in your feet, you're holding in your sadness, you're holding in your anger, something like that. 참다, to hold it in. So if you hold it in for too long, what's going to happen? Try to finish the sentence with 마련이다. Obviously. Nikki gets a hi. I said hi to you, Nika, too. I said hi to you first. Did I not? I was like, oh, hey, Nika. Like that. 너무 오래 참으면 결국에 버티다 is to endure. 힘든 공부도 계속하면 익숙해지기 마련이죠. 공부, sure, you can change 운동 to 공부. No, 참다 and 버티다 both can mean to endure. They're slightly different though. There's actually several words that can have that that sort of meaning of endure or bear or deal with, like that. But you did conjugate it correctly, 봄이. 너무 오래 참으면 지치기 마련이에요. You'll get sick of it, okay? Or you'll get exhausted, I guess, tired of it. 너무 오래 참으면 건강을 해치는 마련이. Remember, it's not 는. 수업에 매일 계속 공부하면, 수업을 계속 공부하면, since you're not studying to my class, you're studying at my class or studying directly my class. 한국말하고 maybe it's supposed to be 한국말을 with object marker. 잘하게 되기 마련이에요. You could use something like that. 한국 빌리 수업 자주 가면 참석하면 한국어를 잘 하게 되기 마련이다. You could use something like that. 마음이 아프기 마련이다. Sure, you'll feel sad. You'll be hurt if you hold it in too long. 너무 오래 참으면 고생하기 마련이에요. Okay, nice. You'll suffer. And it's obvious. This is what you're saying. It's obvious. Of course, if you hold it in, you're just gonna suffer. 오래 참으면 언제든지 폭발하기 마련입니다. 마련이랍니다. Sure, Nika, trying to be all fancy, adding your 이랍니다. Drinking with one pinky up, kind of Korean sentence there. You know what they say. Actually, Nika's answer is similar to my answer. He had 폭발하다, to explode. Well, that's what I'm going to put, but not that. I'm going to use a cooler word. 언젠가, sometime, 터지다. 터지다 is to burst. So not 폭발하다 like you're going to explode like a, explosion or something like that. 터지다 is to burst. Like, just like that. When you get angry, you can't take it anymore. You just go, bah! Or you do, bah! Like okay, I'll probably stop. Okay, 터지기 마련. What am I? Let's write this with the correct stroke order for everyone. 마련이에요. 터지기 마련이에요. 터지다, to burst. So you're going to explode. That's what they would say. Normally, if you laugh so hard, you feel like your stomach hurts. Koreans say 배가 터지다. Your stomach bursts. So you can say 배가 터지겠네. 배 터지게 something. Like you did something so much, your stomach's going to burst. Like laughing usually. Or maybe eating a lot of food or something like that. 터지겠다. 언젠가 터지기 마련이에요. 너무 오래 참으면 언젠가 터지기 마련이에요. So, 너무 오래, for too long, 참으면, if you hold it in too long, 너무 오래 참으면 언젠가, sometime, 터지다, to burst, to explode. 터지기 마련이에요. So, you're gonna explode if you just hold it in that long. If you, of course, get that of course meaning? Of course, if you hold it in too long, someday it's just going to explode. 너무 오래 참으면, so if you hold it for too long, 언젠가 터지기 마련이에요. It's gonna just explode sometime. So you gotta let it out a little bit. Just holding in all of my emotions. It's just gonna explode. 너무 오래 참으면 언젠가 터지기 마련이에요. Okay, that is our lesson. You guys made it through a very advanced lesson today. Now, you might not think it's advanced. I will tell you though, if you are not advanced, you will not be able to use this in your regular sentences. It's kind of hard to use it in your regular sentences because you have to think of something that's also a universal truth to use it with. You can't just make a regular sentence and stick marionida or pobida onto the end. Remember, it has to be something that everyone else would already agree with you. It has to be something obvious. So yeah, you guys survived this very advanced lesson. Give yourself if you understood it, give yourself a pat on the back. If you were able to make some sentences, give yourself 2 pats on the back. If you already knew this form, get out of here. I don't know what you're doing here, but great. Good job. 스트레스 많이 받기 마련이다. 스트레스 많이 받기 마련인데요. 너무 오래 참으면 보상은 보상이 I don't know if that would be considered a natural truth. If you hold it in too long, then the reward will be big. It doesn't quite flow logically. Even if grammatically it's close, you have it close to how it could be. 버티다, explode? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Endure. 버티다 is, I think you're thinking of 터지다, the one I used. 버티다 is just to like endure something. Like it could also mean to hold out, like you're holding out, you're just like doing your best to stay there, like doing your best to just hold on, like that sort of meaning. 버티다. They have some other expressions with that as well. No. Withstand. Forrest M leaves. Oh, hey, Forrest. Is there a noun equivalent to that? Yeah, 폭발. 폭발 is an explosion normally. Vocab for people who are lacking vocab. 터지다, 익숙하다, 대체. Yes. 실망, 막다, 고장나다. Good. Yeah, those are good vocab. Okay, so we finished on time, so I'm going to take some questions from any of you who have those. If you'd like to, you can practice making sentences with what we've learned today, or you can ask questions on the topic, or just questions about anything related to Korean. I will take your questions for the next 15 minutes. Me understanding and using pobida and marionida while still getting confused with 서 and nika. Okay. 서 and nika. I'm going to assume you already know how to conjugate these. nika goes after a verb stem. 서 goes after a conjugated verb. So 하다 would become 해서. And this one is 하다 would become 하니까. Note, this one has exceptions because of the nian at the beginning. And a lot of grammar forms that start with this letter also have these exceptions. Things like if you have a verb stem that ends with a piup, you have to remove it and attach u. If you have a verb stem that ends with a lir, you remove it. It just goes away. So like 살다 is 사니까. 히읗 also goes away. So there are some exceptions. This one doesn't, because this one you just conjugate it like normal. So you already have to do this type of stuff to get the conjugation. So that's how you conjugate them. Their usage is also different. I think that although they can both translate as because, I like to think of 서 as a so, as a therefore. So I know it sounds like 서, so, but anyway, this one is only used for something that's a cause and effect. So something caused something to be a certain way, or something will cause, or something does cause a certain thing to be a certain way. This one is not for cause and effect. This one is simply giving a reason for something. Nothing has been caused to do something. You're just explaining. So you can explain that the cause and effect of something was this, but 서, using 서 directly says that this caused this to happen, or this causes that to happen. Because of that, there are some restrictions in how you can use either one. 서 cannot be used for commands or suggestions. You cannot use it to say, it's cold outside, so wear a jacket. Because where is the cause? The cause of being cold outside is the effect is you wear a jacket. No, there is no cause and effect when you're telling someone to do something. You can say, it was cold, so I wore a jacket. Yeah. The cold caused me to wear a jacket. Or the cold, when it is cold, I want to wear a jacket. Sure. Because of the weather. The cause, the effect is I want to wear a jacket, or I wore a jacket. But you cannot say because the weather is cold, the effect of that is go do something, or let's do something. Doesn't make any grammatical sense. So you cannot use this one with commands or suggestions. nika is for giving an explanation of something. Because of something, I did something. You can use it for a lot of the situations. You can use 서. So you can say, because it's cold, I wore a jacket. I'm explaining to you, hey, I wore a jacket because it's cold. You're not saying the cold made me wear a jacket. You're just saying, well, I wore a jacket. And the reason was because it was cold. That's the reason. Maybe the reason's dumb. Maybe it has nothing to do with because it was cold. I just wanted to. My friend told me to. Okay? Any sort of explanation. If you want to say, I feel emotion because of something. So I'm sad because. I'm happy because. Only use 서. So if you want to say, I'm sorry because I'm late. You'd say, being late makes me feel sorry. So you literally say the cause of, because I was late, the effect is I feel sorry. This isn't something that necessarily makes sense grammatically. I mean, intuitively. This is just something you have to memorize. If you're saying because of something, I'm sorry or whatever, thankful, thank you for doing something. 도와줘서, 감사합니다, 서. Emotion, any sort of thankful feeling, happy, sad, scared, anything like that is always done as an effect of something. So think of an effect, emotion, effect, emotion, if that helps you remember that 서 is used for emotion. So if you want to say command or suggestion, you have to use this one, a reason. You're giving the explanation. So, hey, do something. And the reason is, I'm explaining to you, the reason is this. Like, hey, the weather's great. 오늘 날씨가 좋으니까 같이 영화나 보러, I guess I don't know why you go see a movie if the weather's good. 뭐 공원에나 갈까? Should we like go to the park or something because the weather's nice? I'm just explaining the reason. That is your brief explanation of 서 and 니까. Okay, I know that wasn't really a question. I just thought, why not? Let's teach it. Wonder why animal sounds are so weird in Korean. They don't sound even close to reality. Which dog says mong mong? Well, Korean dogs, obviously, Korean dogs, they grow up exposed to Korean culture all the time. So as a result of their environment, they naturally say mong mong. You know, American dogs will say like that. But Korean dogs are more refined. They care more about their public image. They're maybe a little vain, you might say. But they make sure to make more of a refined sound. So Korean dogs will say mong, mong. They of course will have perfect pronunciation as well. They've been learning it since childhood. It's just a thing, the Korean animals, they grow up in a different environment. Everyone around them speaks Korean, and they practice pronouncing things differently from birth. So yeah, Korean dogs do say mong, mong when they're talking. Okay. Nyaong, mong mong, kegul kegul. Yeah, frogs. And that's the most impressive thing I think about Korean frogs is that in America, frogs are just like, they just make their like their sounds. Korean frogs practice for years to say kegul kegul. It's incredible. And I don't know why there have not been more nature documentaries about Korean animals. Bow wow. Yeah, that's only the Dalmatians. And Will Smith, I think, says that too. Maybe Korean dog understands more Korean than me. That would be possible. I know Korean dogs do, just like, regular dogs can kind of react to what their owners are saying. They kind of know, how their owners are feeling and and certain commands if you train them. Korean dogs will also understand those sorts of things from their trainers in Korea. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, feel free to ask any questions you might have. This is your time to ask anything you've been curious, you wanted to know. But, I've been singing praises of Korean animals, but in reality, you have to respect the American rooster. Because although the Korean rooster has managed after millions of years of generation to generate the sounds "kokyo" or something like that, American roosters are just like cock-a-doodle-doo. And that's frankly quite impressive and in some ways puts all the others to shame, considering the fact that roosters don't even have teeth to make those sounds. I guess pros and cons of each country. I'm not going to say one's better. 시간 되면 려나 보다. I've already done that. Daisy, check out my live stream playlist. You'll see I already did. I think I already did. 려나. Let me check. Let me check it. Yeah, I did. It's the live stream from September 1st, 2019. And you can find it in my live playlist. I did the class about 나 보다, 가 보다, 려나 보다, and a couple other related forms. So check that out. That would be unfortunately way too long for me to give a brief explanation here. Well, I could give you a really brief explanation, but it wouldn't really teach anything. Tony. Also, I've done a full live stream. The reason is Tony has 3 different meanings, 3 different, completely different uses. So I don't want to try to, let me see, when was that? Tony. Yeah. That was the whole live stream was 토라고, 토라. Well, 토라고 is pretty much the same. 토라고 and Tony was the whole live stream. So that should give you an idea. It was like 3 different uses for Tony. Like something happens right after something, something happens but, and then like something happens right after doing something else. I can't remember exactly the 3 that they were that I taught. Typically it's one of 2 though. Rose Zhang, welcome. Tony, one of the uses of Tony is and then. Yes, there are 2 other uses. So if that's good enough, and then, yeah, that's fine. Reactivate. Sometimes the bot is just asleep. The only way to reactivate it is if I go in, log out, and log back in. And I've done that already. I do that every stream when we start. It's on my to-do list because the bot has problems, but okay. On Discord, usually there are vocal chat rooms too. Yeah. Vocal chat room. Practicing pronunciation. Who would... Okay, to be honest, who would join it? I guess that's the question. Because if you want to do pronunciation practice, you would want to... ideally, you want to do pronunciation practice with someone who can help you with pronunciation. You don't want to do pronunciation practice with someone else who's learning pronunciation, right? So you'd want to have someone who's native or near native, or at least a teacher, someone like myself or better, to be in there to give you feedback. And you're probably not going to get that sort of feedback on a regular basis, at least not enough that we would be able to open a full channel just for doing that. Now, if we start getting a bunch of natives who want to volunteer their time throughout the day to do that, then that could work. But currently, we only maybe have at most like 10 or something people in a voice chat. So I don't think that would probably happen. I'm actually a big fan of yours. This is like my birthday gift calling you out. Rose Zhang. Welcome. Okay. Why is it a bad word? I just saw this comment. Why is it a bad word if you write 아이고? That's why they told you to never say it again. So you go in a chat and you're like, okay, so normally if you're wondering, 아이고, oh my, dear, goodness me, gracious, wow. Usually older Koreans use it. It's not really something used by younger people, unless they're using it kind of jokingly to sound older. But if you go to chat and you're like, wow, they're going to be like, never say that again. Do you understand me? Never say that again. That's, I think, what happened. It's just a guess without any more context. 명확하다, 명백하다, 명쾌하다. Bomi, a dictionary would be better than those sorts of things. Because I could tell you sentences with those, but that wouldn't tell you the difference. Because the difference is going to be in the dictionary with the exact meaning. It will help you, though, to look at the 한자, though. Because 명확 and 명백 and 명쾌 use the same 한자 for 명. I believe it's the one meaning clear. Bright, actually, if I can check that. Now I'm curious if it's the one for bright. Yes. And then 확 would be something certain. So clearly, certainly. 명백, I believe that's white. As in like, yeah, it is. As in like obvious white is how they use it. So something clearly obvious. So yeah, you can look at those. Well, if you're talking about just that character by itself can be used as the middle finger. So they'll sometimes do that with they'll make like an emoticon face and they'll put those on the side of it, kind of like holding up middle fingers. They could have thought you meant that, but if someone were to see this just like this, it could mean you're just extending your sound. 아이고. Or they could think you're meaning to use the middle finger. Either of those. Either way, you don't want to do that. Yeah, usually though, they just use it as like one or a few of them by itself, not at the end of a word. If you're me, say like 아이쿠, 어이쿠. I say 어이구, 어이구. I'm working on pronunciation and repeating everything I hear. Would you say you have an accent in Korean? Yeah, I would have a slight accent because I'm not a native. And do people on radio have a fancy accent? Some. No, they're just using their best voice. It's not that they're not doing like the thanks for tuning in, everyone, and next week on the... They're not doing like that fake radio announcer voice in Korea, but they are doing their best clear voice when they're speaking in Korea. So no, it's not quite the same radio accent that you might be expecting. But yeah, they'll just be doing something really clear and easy to hear. Okay, let's see here. 선생님 한국어 뜻이 비슷한 단어가 많잖아요. 그래서 어휘에 대한 동영상 만들어 주시겠어요? Like what? Vocabulary. I've actually made videos already. My video coming up next Monday, maybe you'll like this. My video next Monday, 보미, is about how to tell the difference between two words that have the same meaning in the dictionary. So there you go. You are what would the word be? You can predict the future. whatever that would be. You can predict the future because that's my video coming up on next week, Monday. For example, like 선택하다 and 고르다. They can both mean to choose. So I talk about in that video how you can tell which one means which, how you can verify it, which one you would use, and then not just those two words, but in general, whenever you see two words that look the same, how you can tell what the difference is between them. 어이구, 어이구. Yeah. 529. 어이구. Just found out gifting handmade candles to someone is illegal in Korea. I've never heard that. I've never tried giving someone handmade candles before. It could be the production of them, if that's real. I never heard about that. I can ask. I can find out. Thanks, Billy. Rewatching a lot of your videos and appreciate them even more the second time. Thank you. 기대히고 있어요. 아니면 기대하고 있어요. Just small typo. Can you make a cooking class? I've done a cooking video before. I did a live stream where I made a ramen sandwich. It's still up. You can check it out. It was horribly disgusting and delicious. It was great. I should do it again. And I've done a video making kimchi before. I have a really good recipe for kimchi that I used in the video. And I've used that same recipe 3 times, although I altered how much, I put less gochu powder in there because the first time I made it was quite spicy. So you can check that out if you want to learn how to make kimchi. It's quite easy. And I cook a lot, but I don't cook Korean food that much. Most of the food I cook is like American food or something like that. Like, like restaurant food is what I like to do. Billy, do you like Korean food? Yes, of course. I love Korean food. Korean food's great. 다면서 is the same, right? Yes, I've done there's slight different nuance, but yes. And I've done a live stream about those two. 다며 and 다면서. So check that out. It wasn't actually that long ago. I think it might have just been a few weeks ago. Yes, a ramen sandwich. I learned this recipe when I was in Korea from another person who was living in Korea. I guess they didn't have very much money, so they heard the recipe from someone else. And their father told them the recipe, and their father passed on the recipe. And so I adjusted it to how I like it, but it's pretty much the same recipe, just kind of improved. And you get a small pan and you boil with a very little bit of water, you boil ramen inside of it and you flip it over just enough to get the ramen mostly cooked. So not completely soft, mostly. Once the water's mostly evaporated, so the water's gone from the pot, you add oil to the pot and you turn up the heat and you fry the ramen. So you fry it, flip it over so it doesn't stick too much. After it's fried, you crack an egg over the top of it. Let the egg go into the ramen, flip it over again so you fry it. Basically, you have a block of fried, soft, slightly crunchy but mostly soft ramen with an egg inside of it. Then you put a big piece of Spam, like 2 thin or thick, I like thick, two slices of Spam, and you flip it over, you fry Spam. So you do this all in the same pan, so it's easy. Fry Spam, and then you flip the Spam over, you fry both sides, so the Spam's all nice and fried. Meanwhile, you toast 2 pieces of bread. Then when those are done, you take those out, you put the Spam, oh yeah, and then if you want, you can add a little bit of the ramen powder over the Spam, if you like. I've sometimes done that too, just a little bit, or else it's too spicy. Then you take the ramen out, so ramen has the egg and the Spam on it. You put it onto the toast, on the half of the sandwich. You spread on jelly. Grape jelly works great. Strawberry jelly works good too. Whatever jelly you like, put on a bunch of it. Or jam. Jam works fine too. Then you close the sandwich. You now have a 2,000 calorie, disgusting looking ramen sandwich that tastes amazing. It tastes just like you would wish. And I made it maybe a dozen times. It's great. It's super cheap. So it's super high calories, very cheap, tastes very good, and easy to make. You only get one pan for the whole thing by cooking it. You don't have to deal with any dishes except that one dish, and it'll make you completely stuffed. Okay. Billy, maybe create, Zotix asked this earlier. Maybe create a video of how your channel and your outside work is monetized. That could be interesting. Well, I have advertisements on my videos, and I make money when people watch the advertisements or click on them. I'm really interested to see your business model because it's hard to believe you can make a living out of it. But my majority of where I can make my money would be things like monetization, like outside of YouTube. So that includes things like Patreon donations, memberships, occasional donations. Thank you, Grant. As well as selling merchandise, some selling my books. I'm working on some new books right now as well, doing collaborations with other projects, making video series. And yeah, so it's different. I know a lot of other YouTube channels they'll make most of their money from brand deals, but I've never done a single brand deal before. I've never accepted a sponsorship from a brand. People contact me. They say, hey, would you like to promote? Insert Korean service in the blank. And I always say no, but if it's good, I'll promote you for free. So you won't see many videos. If I promote something, it's because I like it. If I got paid to do something, I'll let you guys know. Like 2 times I made videos where one of them, the company gave me a free ticket to go to their museum, but I asked them first. So I guess it's promotion. And the other one was a light company sent me some lights. When I asked them, can you send me some free lights? And they're like, sure. And I'm like, awesome. So that was cool. Other than that, I'm not going to have any promotional videos on my channel. I think it should always be upfront and clear. So the negative thing though is I can't make a lot of money from those methods that other channels can because I'm not doing that. It's unfortunate. It would be nice if I could, but it's not my business model. It's not what I want for my channel. 항상 광고를 잘 봅니다. 끝까지. You don't have to though. You don't have to watch them. But I appreciate it. Thank you. What exactly draws the line between 보통 and 평소? 보통 is something that's normal, something that's regular. So you could say 보통 as an adjective. You can't use 평소. You don't use 평소 as an adjective. 평소 is just your daily life. So 평소에 in someone's daily life, this could happen. You could see this. This could happen. Whatever. Or normally in my regular life, I might do this. You could also say 보통, but that's more of a normal feeling. So you can say a normal person, a normal book, a normally, or something like that. So it's more of a general word, 보통, whereas 평소 is specifically about like regularly in your life, that sort of meaning. So they're not exchangeable. Even if you could use 보통 in place of 평소, you can't do vice versa. 평범하게, sure. Sure, it's almost the same, but they're not interchangeable. All right, so I think that's good. I don't want to keep going too long. I don't want to keep you guys any longer. I know you guys have things to do as well as I do. I'm going to be editing the video. If you are a member of my channel, make sure to check this channel tonight. You can watch the abridged version of the lesson tonight before you go to bed. You can review it once more. Unless you're in the East Coast, then it might be a little bit too late for you. Also, remember, if you are a Patreon of mine, you can download the outline for this. Check on Patreon within like 20 minutes or so. You can get this whole outline, as well as the worksheet for today's live stream where you can practice everything that we've learned. There's another couple proverbs on there you can practice with, some examples of both the forms we learned today. And check out our Discord. It's active. There are lots of people in there. Just make sure when you first go in, just read the rules, because we do have some specific rules. Like there's no advertising in there. We want to make sure everything's clean and safe for other people, and be friendly. Other than that, you're more than welcome. Please come in, practice with us, and it's great. There's lots of people in there now, and even an active voice chat for practicing Korean, which I join as well from time to time. So thank you everyone for coming. Oh, yes. And of course, if you're a member, get in your suggestions tonight. Tomorrow, I'm going to be posting all of the new voting options. So tonight is your last chance. If you have a request for a new video, just join my channel. And if you're a member, you can make a request for a future video, and I will really try to do it. As long as I haven't already taught it, I'll really try to teach it in a full live stream. So if you have a question that's been bugging you, put it in as a request, and I will cover it in a video in a live stream. Probably. Thank you for coming, everyone, and I'll see you again next time, which is going to be next Sunday. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.